So if you're just getting into trolling, and a basic rig would just be a swivel, you know, your leader, and a hook with this float in the middle. And that rig, the leader length depends on where the fish are at that day. So if you're just getting started and don't have any of these floats, just tie your regular leader up, a hook, and a swivel. And if you have crappie floats sitting around, or these red and white bobbers that everybody has, just clip it on your line. Just that right there is going to double or triple your catch rate. It's going to keep it up off the bottom. Obviously, you're going to get stuck on a lot more weeds and a lot more sticks and twigs than the streamline. That's where these come in. And when I make my rig, I like to put the peg towards the hook. It keeps it from getting stuck as easy, because sticks and weeds get stuck up in there. This is more streamlined. And then on top of that, you can also put a bead, which makes it more streamlined. And sometimes if it's really brushy and lots of twigs and I'm really dragging through bad things, I'll get a bobber stop. Some of them have holes in them, and I'll put that on backwards, and it makes like a V shape. So it really goes through a lot of sticks and debris without getting hung up. The hook is still going to get hung up, but this helps a little bit. So that's your basic rig, and that's pretty simple, and it'll help a lot. And the length of this part and this part depends on where the fish are at that day, and you can adjust that where you need it, however long you want it. And then now everybody's starting to use these I don't even know what you call them, the rattles, whatever you guys want to call them. There's like 15 different names for them. A basic leader for that is just slide this line through them 3, and then when this line is loose, you can adjust it where you want it. And once you put the bait on there and throw it out and there's tension on it, once there's tension, it stays there. Slowly it might go back toward the hook, but even if it was like this, it's still going to work. So that's another way. You can also tie the leader to this and tie to this. I really don't like to do that because these are not wire through, and I don't trust that plastic part just glued in there. I've never heard of it failing for anyone. It's probably fine, but I'm not going to trust it that way, so you won't ever see me doing that. I prefer this way. And another way is with the same type of rattles, but I'll use little pieces of tubing and beads, so it'll never hit the hook. It just goes straight to that and stops. You can also use a bead here and a bobber stop, and that bobber stop will not let it go to the hook, and then this is more free-flowing compared to this. But basically it's still the same through principle. And here's another one with just surgical tubing. This is a lot bigger float, obviously, and a bigger hook. And this is Ohio. Every morning it's like 17 degrees out here, so this stuff stays cold and it gets stuck in a shape. If you can cut these ahead of time and keep them warm and straight, or once it gets to water, that'll straighten out. But for this video, it decided to be all crooked. But that can also be a changed adjustment of that too, and however long you want it. Really, the idea is just to get the bait off the bottom, whether you use the rattles or the floats or however you decide to do it, that's the basic trick. And this one here is also not tied, it's just through the hook. And another leader, if I can find it, it's really basic. It's probably the most basic one there is. Just a hook, a long like 24, 36 inch leader to your swivel. And I like to use this down in like the Alabama and then bigger Wilson and Wheeler, where there's big like 2-mile mud flats. If I can't get anything hitting on the floats, I'll just hook this through a skipjack's nose, under his mouth, through his nose, and just drag a whole dead skipjack right on the bottom, right through the mud, no float. And the skipjack's face is pretty much made to go through the way it's designed. And you are going to get hung up, but I've also caught huge blue cats right in the mud, because they're not always suspended. And another thing to keep in mind when you're using these floats, if I have this set at 18 inches and I want to fish 18 inches, that's fine if you're going to use a sinker like this, because it's going to stay at 18 inches. This is on the bottom. If I have this at 18 inches and I want to target fish at 18 inches, but now I add a floating, like a snagless sinker, or whatever you guys want to call these dragging weights. If I add this and this floats, this sinks, now this is already a foot off the bottom before I try to get my 18 inches. So when you're using them dragging weights, you have to allow for that. And there's so many different dragging weights. Some float, some are made to drag through it, some are made to stay above it. So even if this one here, if I have this right next to the boat or below a planer board, and I'm already at 12 inches or 14 inches, then I add this is already above the bottom. So you really need to bring that into consideration, what length and style float you're going to use and what kind of weight you're going to use. So I think that's about it. It's as complicated as you make it, and it can also be as simple as you make it. Really just get the bait out there and keep it off the bottom, out of the weeds and out of the sticks, and good fishing. See you guys later. Thanks.